Just weeks after making history with America's first Democratic Assembly, Governor George Yardley is about to add a second, darker dimension to his legacy. An English ship, the White Lion, docks at Point Comfort at the mouth of the James River. The captain unloads his cargo, some 20 and odd Negroes, as John Rolfe describes them in a letter to the Virginia Company. Seized from a Portuguese slave ship, they are the first Africans to set foot in Jamestown and English America.
In England, unlike in Spain and Portugal and some of the other countries, there were no real laws in place governing the institution of slavery. The custom of the day is what governed people's behavior.
Although the English aren't yet active in the slave trade, Governor Yardley sees these strangers as a valuable commodity. He decides to buy some of them, paying the captain in ship's supplies. Historians will later argue whether they were enslaved or treated as indentured servants. But this moment, and Yardley's act, is a first.
So he embodies, literally, the two sides of this great paradox of the beginnings of democracy on the one hand, and the origins of slavery and racism that goes along with it on the other.
A few days later, Yardley sends John Rolfe to meet a second ship, bringing more Africans. Among them is a young Angolan woman they refer to as Angela. She is quickly purchased and brought upriver to begin a new life in Jamestown.
Where the archaeologists are digging right there would have been a house standing.
Right.
A few hundred yards from the Jamestown church, the archaeology team is investigating the site where Angela is believed to have lived.
We have very, very light historical documents of Angela's life here. And so it's got to come from the ground and understanding of how first Africans like Angela would have lived and worked in the household.
This is a national park property, so Deputy Superintendent Steve Williams has come to see the progress.
When we think about, of course, John Smith, we think about Pocahontas, but the Africans were sometimes the invisible people. That is a missing piece of the history of America that we want to explore.
In the search for clues to Angela's life, they've dug down to the early 1600s level.
Once we start getting a hit, we're onto it. So we've got a hit here.
By carefully sifting through the soil, they've come across telltale objects that begin to tell Angela's story.
Local earthenwares, that's what I want. Something like this is what would have been on site. So this is the bottom fragment. It doesn't look like a lot, but the reason I like it is that objects like this posset cup could have belonged to Angela.